Hey explorers, welcome. Today we flip history on its head. We'll chase clues from arcs to earthworks. No snorkel required. Bad joke time. Why did the archaeologists break up? Too many excavations. Chuckle. Stick around, subscribe, and comment your take. Arc in America. Crazy or compelling? Let us begin with a simple, unsettling idea. What if our story of the past is backwards? We are told civilization began in the Old World. It started in Sumeria, Egypt, the Indus Valley. From there, it spread to the rest of the globe. But what if this is wrong? What if the true center, the point of origin, after a great global flood, was in the Americas? This single change forces us to rewrite everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. It suggests the great monuments of the Old World were not a beginning. They were an echo. They were the colonial outposts of a much older, forgotten American mother culture. This is a story of hyperdiffusion. Hyperdiffusion is the idea that a single advanced culture gave its knowledge to the entire world. This reversal is not just a thought experiment. It is a necessary conclusion if we follow the evidence where it leads. The conventional story has too many holes. It cannot explain the sudden appearance of sophisticated knowledge all over the planet. It struggles with pyramids in Egypt, pyramids in Peru that seem to speak the same architectural language. It has no answer for the shared flood myths found on every continent. The mainstream model asks us to believe in countless independent inventions, all miraculously similar. It asks us to accept that humans, separated by vast oceans, stumbled upon the same complex ideas again and again. Every great mystery needs a starting point. It needs a physical clue that anchors speculation to the real world. For this story, that clue is a single, specific type of wood. The ancient texts that describe the Great Flood, specifically the Book of Genesis, give us a crucial detail. The Ark was built of gopher wood. For centuries, scholars have debated what this wood was. They have guessed it was cypress. They have guessed it was pine. They have guessed it was cedar. But these are just guesses. The term gopher wood appears nowhere else. It is a unique word for a unique purpose. What if it refers to a real identifiable tree? What if that tree only grows in one specific place on Earth? This is where our investigation begins. The tree is called Torreya taxifolia. It is known today as the Florida nutmeg, more tellingly, the stinking cedar. It is one of the rarest trees in the world. It grows naturally in only one tiny area, a narrow strip of land along the Apalachicola River in the Florida Panhandle. This tree has a remarkable property. Its wood is incredibly resistant to rot and insects. It is one of the most durable woods known to science. That makes it a perfect candidate for a vessel designed to survive a year-long global flood. Scholars have noted something more. The Hebrew letters for gopher could plausibly transliterate the original native name for this tree. This single piece of evidence changes everything. If gopher wood is Torreya taxifolia, the ark had to be built where this tree grew. The biblical ark is often pictured as a simple floating zoo, a crude barge filled with terrified animals. This is a childish image. We should instead think of the ark as a time capsule. It was not just a vessel for preserving life. It was a vessel for preserving knowledge. The Great Flood was a bottleneck event. It squeezed all of humanity and all of its accumulated wisdom through one tiny point, Noah and his family. The survivors were not simple farmers. They were the designated heirs of an antediluvian civilization. They were tasked with carrying the blueprints for rebuilding the world. This concentration of knowledge in the hands of a few people is the engine of hyperdiffusion. Imagine the knowledge they possessed. Advanced mathematics, astronomy, necessary for navigating a world without landmarks, sophisticated metallurgy, complex chemistry for preserving food and materials, advanced agricultural techniques, laws, social structures, spiritual beliefs. This was not a Stone Age group starting from scratch. They were the highly educated, highly skilled remnants of a global civilization. Their mission was not to reinvent the wheel. Their mission was to re-implement a fully formed template of civilization in a washed clean world. Hyperdiffusion is the logical outcome. Once the survivors established a foothold, they began a program of dispersal. To build a vessel capable of surviving a global cataclysm requires more than just good wood. It requires a level of technology far beyond what we attribute to the ancient world. The construction of the Ark implies a mastery of naval architecture and materials science. Specifically, it requires advanced wood preservation techniques. Wood submerged in water for a long period rots. It becomes waterlogged and weak. To build a ship that could last for a year or more in a turbulent worldwide flood, the builders needed a way to make the wood impermeable and indestructible. This points to a sophisticated understanding of chemistry. The biblical account gives us another clue. It says the ark was sealed inside and out with pitch, often assumed to be simple tar or bitumen, but to truly protect a wooden vessel of that scale, a much more advanced sealant is needed. The builders would have required a polymer-like substance, a complex chemical compound that could bond with the wood at a molecular level, creating a waterproof barrier that would not crack or peel under immense stresses. This ability is not the mark of a primitive society. It is the signature of a culture with deep, practical chemistry. This technology was part of the antediluvian inheritance. The people who built the Ark knew how to manipulate materials in ways we are only now rediscovering. This knowledge of wood treatment and advanced sealants was a cornerstone of their civilization. It was this naval technology that allowed them to build the Ark. After the flood, the same knowledge enabled descendants to build fleets of ocean-going vessels. If the Americas were the post-flood center of civilization, no, not just for better sunsets, we should expect to find evidence of high culture there first. We should see key technologies and practices appearing in the Americas long before the Old World. And that is exactly what we find. Archaeologists may now unclench. The established timeline, when examined without prejudice, consistently shows American priority. Let us look at 3 clear examples. No pop quiz yet. First, the practice of mummification, ancient long-term storage, no freezer required. The oldest artificial mummies are not Egyptian. Plot twist. They belong to the Chinchorro of Chile and Peru. The Chinchorro were making complex mummies around 5000 BC. Pinterest would have lost it. 2,000 years before Egyptian rudimentary attempts. Second, large-scale, astronomically aligned earthworks. Observatories with way more dirt. Watson Break in northeastern Louisiana. 11 mounds connected by ridges in an oval enclosure. Archaeologists have dated Watson Break to around 3500 BC. This makes it older than the Great Pyramid of Giza, bragging rights included. It is older than Stonehenge, a deliberately planned engineering and astronomical project, yet labeled as hunter-gatherer work, which strains credibility. This makes no sense, unless the syllabus is upside down. It only makes sense if they were inheritors of an older sacred construction tradition. Third, the precise astronomical alignment of these early mounds, GPS before GPS. Many mound builder sites are aligned to solar and lunar events. They track solstices, they track equinoxes, they track complex lunar cycles. These alignments are not accidental. They show a sophisticated long-term astronomical program central to culture, calendars you can trip over. For a post-flood culture based in the Americas to spread its influence globally, it needed one crucial capability: mastery of the oceans. The survivors of the flood who had built the Ark were not novices on the water. They were the inheritors of the world's most advanced maritime tradition. The skills used to engineer the Ark were not forgotten. They were preserved and passed down. This knowledge would have allowed them to construct fleets of durable ocean-going vessels. They would not have been limited to hugging the coastlines. they would have been able to cross the vast emptiness of the Atlantic and the Pacific with confidence. This is the mechanism for the rapid worldwide spread of civilization. Their ships would have been far more advanced than the simple reed boats or dugout canoes. Using the same principles of durable wood construction and advanced chemical sealants learned from the Ark's creation, they could build large ships capable of carrying dozens of people, along with supplies, tools, and livestock. These were not voyages of accidental discovery. They were planned and executed missions of colonization and cultural transmission. Fleets of these vessels would have been dispatched from the American continents, heading east across the Atlantic and west across the Pacific. This was not a slow trickle, but a deliberate and organized dispersal. If the Great Dispersal began in the Americas, where did the mariners land in the Old World? The ancient traditions provide a clear and powerful answer. The biblical narrative states that Noah's Ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat. For centuries, searchers have scoured the slopes of Mount Ararat in modern Turkey, but the texts say mountains, plural, suggesting a region, not a single peak. I propose that the name Ararat was not the original landing place of the Ark itself. Instead, it became the name of the first major colonial landing site in the Old World. It was chosen for powerful strategic and symbolic reasons. The region around Mount Ararat is geographically strategic. It sits at a crossroads of continents. Descend into the plains of Mesopotamia to the south, move west into Anatolia, move into Europe, move east toward the Iranian plateau and Asia. It is the perfect distribution hub for seeding civilization across the Old World. Landing here would allow a small group of colonists to establish a secure mountain base. From there, they could send out expeditions to the fertile river valleys below, founding settlements in Sumeria and later Egypt. It was a beachhead for recivilizing the Old World. The choice of a mountain landing also carries deep symbolic weight. It mirrors the original Ark story, coming to rest on a mountain after the flood. By naming their outpost Ararat, the colonists created a sacred link to their origin. They reenacted the salvation of their ancestors. One of the most immediate objections to an American origin for post-flood humanity involves animals. How do we explain the distribution of fauna across the globe? If the Ark was built and landed in the Americas, why are there lions in Africa? Why are there elephants in Africa, but not in South America? Why do unique creatures, like the xenarthrans, remain almost exclusively American? A collage of xenarthran animals, armadillo, a tree sloth, and a giant anteater. Armadillo, tree sloth, giant anteater. The hyperdiffusion model offers a straightforward ecological explanation. The Ark did not carry every single species. It carried a representative selection of kinds that then diversified after the flood. Today's distribution reflects that diversification plus a catastrophic megafauna extinction. The xenarthrans are a key piece of evidence. Their fossil record and modern range are centered in the New World. They stayed in their homeland. The animals that spread to the Old World were the ones carried on the ships of the Great Dispersal. Cattle, sheep, goats. Those domesticates explain their early presence in the Fertile Crescent. The distribution of other animals can be explained by subsequent land migrations and ecological pressures. The sharp faunal divide is tied to the megafauna collapse at the end of the last ice age, about 11,600 years ago. This was the time of the Great Flood. That cataclysm would have wiped out most large animal species globally. The world the survivors stepped into was ecologically devastated. The patterns of animal life we see today are the result of rapid adaptation and migration in a post-cataclysmic world. The arrival of the civilizing fleets in the Old World would have been like an invasive species event. Introduced animals competed with, and in many cases replaced, the struggling local fauna. So, the question of faunal distribution is not a weakness of the model. It is a strength. The final and most difficult objection comes from genetics, the fossil record. The standard model of human origins is clear. Hominids evolved in Africa. Modern humans spread out from there. Genetic markers seem to confirm this story. How can a model centered on a recent American origin possibly account for this? The answer requires us to question a fundamental assumption of modern biology, the slow, steady pace of evolutionary change. The hyperdiffusion model proposes that the period after the flood was a time of incredibly rapid biological diversification, a process we might call accelerated homoplasy. Homoplasy is the development of similar traits in unrelated lineages, what is often called convergent evolution. After the cataclysm, small, isolated populations of human survivors would have been scattered across the globe. These groups would have been subject to intense selective pressures. In this environment, evolution would not proceed at a crawl. It would leap forward. Traits would change rapidly in response to new climates, new diets, new diseases. This would cause different groups to develop distinct physical characteristics very quickly. The genetic story we read today, which we interpret as evidence of a deep, ancient African origin, genetic clocks are calibrated with assumptions about the rate of change. If that rate can accelerate, the clocks are wrong. The out-of-Africa model of primate evolution is also challenged. While fossils of early hominids are concentrated in Africa, the fossil record is notoriously incomplete. Our model suggests the antediluvian world had a wide variety of hominid forms. Post-flood humanity, a single surviving type, Homo sapiens, rapidly diversifying to fill empty ecological niches. The apparent African origin in the fossil record could be an accident of preservation or a pre-flood regional variation, not the single point of origin for all humanity. The flood narrative provides a mechanism for a severe genetic bottleneck that would reset the human story. If this premise holds, the implications are staggering. Many developments we credit to the Old World are not original inventions. They are colonial derivatives. They are echoes of a lost American parent civilization. All of these may be part of a legacy carried across the oceans, from west to east, the pyramids, knowledge of astronomy, art of mummification, foundation of cities. The story of humanity is not a simple linear march of progress originating in Africa and Mesopotamia. It is more complex. A brilliant world lost a desperate survival, a heroic worldwide effort to rebuild from an American heartland. By accepting one material constraint, the gopher wood is the American Torreya taxifolia, we are forced into this radical new narrative. This clue anchors a story of hyperdiffusion, survivors based in the Americas using advanced maritime and scientific knowledge to reseed civilization worldwide. This model accounts for American cultural priority. Picture a sailor with a cracked compass. It still points, just not always north, so she learns two tricks. Check the stars, check her heart. One shows direction, the other shows intention. Moral, maps change. Curiosity should not. Question boldly, correct cheerfully, and keep sailing. If this voyage sparked you, tap like subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next leg. Share this with a friend who loves big maps and bigger what-ifs. Drop your take in the comments. What's the one clue you think we're all overlooking? Thanks for watching, for thinking, and for steering with us. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your compass honest. Here's a quick parable. Two castaways argue over whose map is right. One debates landmarks. The other just starts rowing toward the sunrise. By noon, they reach the same island because rowing beats arguing. Chuckle. Our take on history may row against the current, but following clues beats standing on the dock. Let curiosity steer and test everything. If this voyage intrigued you, tap like, subscribe for the next chapter, and drop your take in the comments. Thanks for watching. You're the crew that keeps this ship sailing.